Hello, and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast pre-launch special. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and you have been granted exclusive access to the listening party of my book, Blessings in the Streets, When God Leverages Our Valley Experiences. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed the content that has been presented. Today we're going to dive into chapter 10 of the book, and the story that I'm going to share with you is entitled Omission. One evening, while I was sitting at home lounging around, I received a telephone call from my sister Teresa. She informed me that our father had just lost his battle with cancer. The shock of the news left me somewhat at a loss for words and numb inside, but I was thankful that she thought enough of me to share the news. Unfortunately, I did not have that same type of relationship with my other siblings, nor had we exchanged contact information in the past. That said, who knows if I would have been made privy to his passing in time to pay my last respects had it not been for Teresa. I told her it was my intentions to attend the funeral, so all that I needed was the details on date and time once everything had been finalized. After speaking with Teresa, I reached out to Mom and shared the sad news. It was something I did not find pleasure in doing, especially considering that it had been less than a month since Mike had passed away. As expected, Mom was devastated to hear of his passing and initially had planned on attending the funeral services as well. I, however, strongly discouraged her from considering such a thing, as I felt it might be deemed disrespectful to my father's wife. Even if this was not an issue, Mom herself was not mentally nor emotionally prepared to deal with another death involving someone near and dear to her heart. Clearly, my parents were no longer an item and had not been for many years. But that did not ever stop Mom from loving or caring about my dad. As his son, I did feel it was both appropriate and necessary for me to attend the services, if for no other reason but to obtain closure. Mom reluctantly agreed to honor my wishes, and Icy was instead the one to accompany me to the funeral, which was held in Chicago. When I arrived at the church on the day of the funeral, Teresa was the first one to greet us. She gave me an extended, loving embrace, but I also noticed a look of sadness in her eyes that seemed to extend beyond just her mourning the death of our father. It was then that she proceeded to tell me that all my other siblings overruled her in a decision that was made to exclude my name as one of my father's children to be recognized in the obituary. According to Teresa, the stated justification in doing so was out of respect for their mother. The only problem with that rationale was that I also have two additional sisters from another affair that my father had while married, whose names were included in the obituary along with the other siblings. In the end, I honestly believe that the decision to exclude my name was not so much about personally attacking me, but was more about the ongoing sibling rivalry between Teresa and my other siblings. Teresa later divulged details of arguments that came about while planning the funeral, along with the backstory on tensions that were already in place amongst my siblings prior to my father's death. When it was all said and done, I was just pleased that the funeral service itself had gone well, despite the interfamily conflicts that were going on. As I stood in front of my father's casket, looking down on his body, I struggled with a multitude of emotions. One part of me was extremely sad that my father had passed away. He had his shortcomings and faults just like everyone else does, but I knew in my heart that he loved me. However, the other range of emotion I experienced was centered around the anger I was feeling inside. I could not help but reflect on all the good times that as father and son should have shared with each other, but that we missed out on because we could not have the active daily presence of one another in our lives. I did not have him around, to play catch with me or teach me how to fight or talk to girls. There are just certain conversations that should be reserved in life between a father and his son that we never got the chance to experience. And because of that, I was angry. I will say that despite the missed opportunities, I was glad we had developed a solid relationship so that in his passing, I had no personal regrets of words I should have said or time I should have spent with him. I was thankful that mom encouraged me to have a relationship with my father and that his life came to an end with our standing being on a positive note. As I began to step away from the casket, my siblings were sitting on the front row alongside my father's wife. Even in my sadness and overall feelings of being disrespected by them in such a hurtful way, it was important to me that I take the high road and be the bigger person out of respect for myself and my father. It started with me making direct eye contact with each of them as I made my way down the row, shaking each of their hands. In that moment, I wanted to believe that they were sorry about the decision to exclude me from the obituary, but because we do not communicate with each other on a regular basis, I am uncertain if any apology will ever come my way or if we will ever speak to each other as brothers and sisters should. At the end of the row stood Teresa, whose arms I fell into as we hugged and cried with each other. I believe she was more hurt about what was done to me than I was, but at the time, none of that mattered, since the day was all about celebrating the life of my father. The one bit of solace I was able to leave the funeral with was knowing that the tie my father wore in his casket was the same one I had bought him for his birthday. I'm certain that my siblings had no idea about that. At the gravesite, a couple of my uncles, whom I had never had the pleasure to meet, recognized me even though we had not seen each other since I was a small child. I suppose much of that had to do with the strong resemblance between myself and my father. They shared with me about having known my mom and the times when she prepared meals for them and my father. It was nice to finally meet other family members that I was otherwise unfamiliar with. There was one person at the funeral who even recognized Icy from having seen one of our wedding pictures. We later came to find out that she was a mutual friend of one of Icy's college friends, whose mother was the sister of my father's wife. Simply put, it meant that Icy's friend, who I had known for years, was my cousin by marriage. Teresa revealed that she used to babysit Icy's college friend when she was younger. I guess you can say it is a small world after all. The only problem is that my world became just a bit smaller now that my father was no longer alive. My father died at the age of 68 years old on June 27th, 2005. This concludes our story for today. I thank you for tuning in. And next time we will dive into chapter 11. So I'll see you then, and until that time, be blessed. Take care.